Hey, hey.
Work smarter where you want.
This is learning at its most fun. All right, welcome everybody to another Redtail educational webinar. This one's a little bit more of a strategic webinar. It's focusing on Redtail and regulation best interest, the tools and strategies to meet the new standards that are going to be rolling out June 30th. All right, that is the important date for you all to remember. That is the time in which people are expected to start essentially falling in line with these rules. Now, with the rollout of regulation best interest rules by the SEC, there's going to be a few changes in your operations. And with any situation that involves compliance or auditing, it's best to have processes in place, strategies in place. And that is what we are focused on today. Now, remember, Redtail is not a compliance department. Okay, Redtail is not, I am not a compliance expert. I'm a Redtail expert. I'm a technology expert. So I would suggest that if you have any questions about the execution and compliance of your office's handling of the Reg BI rules, please, that's 3 times, please reach out to your compliance officer, compliance department for those questions. That means sample CRS forms. Redtail is not going to have those types of forms for you. Definitely take the opportunity to research the rule, to look up the rule. Google regulation best interest and see what FINRA and SEC have to say about it. There's a whole FAQ, excuse me, on the SEC page regarding the actual compliance side of these rules. So while Redtail is not a compliance, expert, we are not the form experts. We are not going to be providing you those forms at all. We are, however, great at helping with those processes, with tracking certain items and being able to search and report on those items. And that is what this webinar is going to be about. It is all about the strategies to track these types of things in your CRM. That's what we're focusing on today, okay? We'll be showing you what's available in Redtail to assist in tracking your info in regards to those Reg BI rules. What's really cool is that there's actually a lot of things that are already in Redtail that you can use to your advantage. And there's also some new stuff that we've rolled out as well. So we're going to cover all of that. Now, as with anything historical, right, the general regulation best interest rules is that when you make a recommendation, it has to be noted. It has to be noted, and that form CRS, which is, again, we're not going to get too deep into what that form is, what that form needs to look like, but it does need to be sent and signed. And so anytime something happens in Redtail or anytime something happens with you and your client, what is that? That's history. That's something that has happened, right? And so one of the major things that we are obviously going to want to focus on is notes and activities. Notes and activities are there for you when things need to happen, are going to happen, or have already happened, right? So that's the same thing is true here in Redtail in terms of strategic approach. Anytime that form CRS is sent, anytime that we are getting that sent and signed, we need to notate it, put it in an activity, put it in a note, something like that. I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions as to how you can do that. So we're going to actually go into the CRM here. And first and foremost, we got to talk about customization. If you've never played with notes and activities before, customization is absolutely key. You'll notice right here, I have things to do today. It says that activity type is a client review. It has the category of client review notes. Those are customizable fields inside of Redtail. And in order to customize them, all we have to do is go up to our top right-hand corner down to manage your account. And then we are going to go down to manage database lists. That is where we make all these adjustments. Now, the reason I encourage this customization is because ultimately it's for organization and it's about being able to report on the stuff that you put into your CRM, that you put into your database. So because we're talking purely about historical items here, I am going to go down to activities and notes on my right-hand side, and I'm going to focus particularly on categories, okay? Categories have to do, in this case, underneath activities and notes, these categories have to do with categorizing my notes and activities. And I would highly recommend, as we scroll down here, you can actually see that we have a couple of categories here for if a CRS form has been sent and or a CRS form has been signed. We have those specifically created, and those can be utilized, again, as you may have guessed, when a CRS form is sent out and when it is received back signed. That's what signed stands for. And remember, you can add to these lists. You don't have to necessarily record all of these. The other thing that I am going to mention here is that these are just suggestions. These are not the be-all, end-all. Redtail is not the be-all, end-all of regulation best interest, and the things that I am suggesting to you today are not the absolute must way of doing things. These are all purely just suggestions. You could even have just a category for Reg BI. Just that. If I were to type in Reg BI and just add that category, you could just have that category, and that would be fine. And you'll see the usage of this. You'll see the importance of this in a little bit. So let's go to a contact. Let's say I just got off the phone with, let's see who's on my list here. Let's say I just got off the phone with, oh man, Tim Taylor. Sure, why not? Just got off the phone with Tim Taylor, and we can actually go in and actually set reviews and say, okay, we added a note, and I'm going to say, just got off the phone with Tim, made a recommendation, there we go, nailed it, to move some money, whatever, okay? I'm keeping this really generic. I'm keeping this really high level, okay? But again, the whole point of this regulation best interest rule is that when you make recommendations, you have to provide that you are acting in the client's best interest, right? And so by adding that in there, we can actually just get off the phone, we can put in the note, and we can categorize it as one of those things that we sent, regulation best. We can say the form was sent, we can say it was regulation best interest, whatever we want, okay? So we're adding that note. Another thing that we can do is we can notate what account we talked about, okay? We talked about, let's see, we'll say we talked about this account, and then maybe we didn't send the form, right? Maybe it's just a phone call and I said, hey, Tim, I'm going to send you a form real quick. I'm going to get you to sign it. And we can create that follow-up activity, and I can save that note, and then I could actually assign this activity out. I could say it's a task. I can say it's a regulation best interest, whatever one of these categories I wanted to use, form sent. And I can actually give this to one of my staff members. I can go ahead and say, this is going to be for Jack, send Reg BI form CRS to Tim to sign. Okay. That's linked in my notes. It's assigned to Jack. It's already linked to Tim. It's linked to my accounts. And I am assigning this out to have Tim get that form, get it signed, and get it back to us. I can save that activity. And that's something that's going to go to Jack. Now, that's just real basic. I entered in a note. I entered in an activity. I recorded it. Okay. That's one way of doing things with notes and activities. You're going to want to record those types of things. With notes and activities, though, there comes repetition, right? Repetition. We do the same thing all the time. And that is where I want to talk about templates. Templates in Redtail, some of you might not even know about Redtail note templates. They're about, I want to say a little bit less than a year old. And we have all different types of templates that you can build inside of Redtail. Particularly, we have templates that are in regards to notes and activities. You can build note templates and you can build activity templates to use over and over and over again, which is really, really cool. So let's show you some of those templates real quick. Let's show you where you can get them and some ideas about what a note template might look like in this particular case in regards to regulation best interest. So again, what I'm going to do is go up into my top right-hand corner, go underneath Manage Your Account, and then we have Manage Templates right there in the middle. And we got all different types of templates, right? We got mail merge templates, email templates. I want to focus on note and activity templates right here, okay? Note templates, again, it allows me to create a note that I can use over and over and over again. We already have some built here. We already have one built, and when I say we, I mean me in my training database, already has a template built for regulation best interest. And you see, it's not much. It doesn't need to be much, right? If I am sending out this template and I want to do a quick note of it, you'll see that I can give that template a name. I can put in whatever kind of text that I want, and I can choose one of my categories. Again, this goes back to the categories that we already built. So it's all about tracking. It's all about tracking. We also have another one here, such as client review meeting notes, right? Now, one of the things that we could do with the notes such as this are, again, what advice was given. This is all something that we can pre-type out. So what recommendations were given? And if that was form CRS presented and signed, we add that to our client review note template. And then that way we can use this. We can be prompted for it. And that's the key. It's just constantly being prompted to do it. Incoming phone call could be the same thing. Who did we speak with? What are our follow-up items? Those types of things are things that we can go in here. Now, you can be as detailed as you want, okay? You can even go in and make specific ones such as, let's say, if we wanted to get real specific, we could make one just for phone call recommendations. And we say, spoke to, and then we put client name on the phone about the following. Okay. And then we can bullet point this out, right? We can say, talked about following accounts, made following recommendations. Again, this is not the way that you have to do it, but I do think that it is a valuable way to be able to wash, rinse, repeat a lot of the note-taking stuff that you're going to be doing, giving yourself a template to follow. Really, really cool. And then was form CRS delivered. As long as you type right. That's always an issue. Sometimes you got to make sure that you type right. And again, we can categorize this as we want. We can categorize this as phone call. We can categorize this ag regulation best interest, whatever we want here. In this case, this is a phone call recommendation, right? So again, I could say that this specific note category has to do with regulation-based best interest. We save that note template, all right? Now, that's just note templates. If I take a step back, I can go into my activity templates. And again, this is for activities. Maybe we're consistently assigning somebody to send out the form, right? To send that out. So create an activity template. And that's what we have here. Send out the CRS form. The subject is send out the CRS form. It's a task. It's categorized. These are all things that we can use. And we can say, again, in the instructions, in the description, recommendation for account, for, let's just say, client account made, please send form CRS. All right. And now this, again, this is specifically, maybe you're consistently assigning this to a specific staff member. Maybe it's always Jack, like we used before, right? We assigned that to Jack before. If we're always assigning Jack to send out this form, if it's specifically a task for a specific staff member, we can actually set that as such in our activity template, and we can update that activity template. Now, if we go back to another contact, let's say we go to Bruce Wayne in this case. If we go to Bruce Wayne's record and we want to use those templates, we're saving ourselves time by just going in and adding a note and selecting those templates that we already built out, right? And again, this is just shortcut. This is strategic. This is not necessarily, teaching you the needed process that you are going to find most effective in your office, right? This isn't providing you the form itself, but it's giving you ideas of how you can use the notes and activities, the historical recording in Redtail, how you can use those to your advantage to record these types of things. You'll notice as I selected that note template, it brings up everything that I had already typed out. It brings up the category of regulation-based interests. We can select a specific account that it was in regards to. We could say we talked about the following accounts, and we can say Allianz. Allianz, as long as I spell things right, which is always a challenge for me. Allianz fixed annuity, whatever. Made the following recommendations. Was the CRS form delivered? Yes, assigned to Jack to send out. Okay. That's how you would fill out something like this. And then again, we can create a follow-up activity from those activity templates that we already utilize. Now, I already did the create a follow-up activity, so I'm not going to do it this time. I'm just going to save it as a note. But I can always add an activity by hovering over my quick add icon up in the top right-hand corner, clicking activities, and then selecting that template again. This fills out everything. It lets me know it has a description entered by the activity template already, but look, it's already filled out its subject. It's refilled the type and category, and it's assigned it to Jack. It's done all that work for me, and now I can create that activity for Jack to do. All right. So that's, again, one of the biggest in terms of historical recording, which is what we're focusing on here. The historical recording, in terms of that, those are huge kind of helpful areas in which to record these items historically. Now, we're going to get to some more stuff in a little bit. The other one that I want to focus on here is I do want to mention workflows, right? Workflows are probably the most requested item when it comes to training. They're one of the most powerful tools in Redtail. They are all about building your process, making sure nothing falls through the cracks. If you have never played with workflows before, I highly recommend checking out our help desk, looking for our workflow series, which is a recorded series that is a crash course in everything workflows. We have a ton of different materials on workflows. So we are not going to be going through the entire process of approaching workflows, of actually building them out and things like that. We're going to operate under the assumption that we've already built out workflows. We already have workflows in our CRM. Our processes are already recorded. But one of the things that you should consider to all of your workflows, past workflows that you've already created, workflows that you're processing and kind of whiteboarding right now, one of the things is that you should consider adding a task to existing workflows that states, okay, this is a task to send out the CRS form, because some of the workflow situations that you are addressing, they are going to require that. Things like client onboarding, account opening, client reviews, any time in which you might be giving recommendations, it's going to benefit you to put an additional task to send out that form CRS as part of that. So let's go into our workflows here in our CRM, in our training database here. We're going to go to manage your account, and we're going to go to manage workflow templates. Now, we have all different types of workflow templates. We have client reviews, we have onboarding processes, things like that. So let's check out the client review workflow that we already have built. Now, this is one that we run all the time. If you've watched our workflow webinars before, you've probably seen this workflow in action. If you've never seen a workflow before, welcome. This is what a workflow looks like. Again, I would encourage you to take the time to watch some of our additional materials on workflows to get a better full idea of what the entire thought process into workflows is. However, one of the things that I would encourage is that this is our client review workflow, right? We have prepping conference room, we have relevant paperwork, we have updating the know your clients. This is on the client review day. We can add this task anywhere in here. We can add it in the client review day items. We could add it in the review follow-up. It's completely up to you and where you feel that it would fall naturally in the process. To me, prepping and gathering all relevant paperwork would include form CRS, right? So I want to edit this task. Just again, because this is new, I want to make specific notation of include form CRS, right? And we could bullet point the paperwork, prep and gather all relevant paperwork. Okay, previously run reports as in previous, or please like see previous step. We want to run like a client UDF. We're going to form CRS, ready to sign. Stuff like that, where I am going into my existing workflow templates. And you'll notice I didn't rebuild my workflow. I didn't rebuild my process. I didn't go crazy. All I did is I went in and I added a specific task, specific items to remind me and remind my office that, hey, this is part of the process now. This is something that we need not forget. Okay. It's just like riding a bike. You need training wheels until you get used to it. This is putting on your training wheels. Okay. Hey, you might not need them. Listen, I'm not telling you need them. I'm just saying it might help. Okay. So again, going into your workflow templates, anytime you have a workflow template that might require or might include client recommendations, consider going in and adding additional tasks. So like my onboarding process, right? If my onboarding process is about onboarding a client, talking with them about accounts, put it in to your template so that it is there over and over and over again once you trigger that template again. Okay. So keep that in mind. That's all I'm talking about when it comes to workflows. We're not putting a ton of work into workflows now, but I did want to mention that this is going to be part of your process, and workflows are your processes. So it makes sense to have these items in your workflows. Now, one of the other items, obviously we're talking about putting in information. Okay. The whole point of Redtail and the whole point of recording this information is so that I can use that later on, so that I can report on it, right? So that it can help me with audits. It can help me with client inquiries. It can help me show my work. Reporting is you reap what you sow, right? You plant the seeds. Reporting is being able to harvest those crops, to use the information that you have put into your CRM and to be able to report on it and look back on it. So a lot of those notes and activities, particularly when it comes to history, that's what we're talking about when it comes to reporting. Reporting on notes, reporting on activities, those types of things is going to become a lot easier when we actually record that information. So if I go back into my CRM and I go over to reports on the left-hand side, I want to look for note reports, because we've been talking about note and activity reports, right? Or we've been talking about adding notes and activities. That's been the majority of what this conversation has been about. If I'm going into my notes report and I want to find notes by contact, that's potentially a lot of notes. And the whole reason that I have encouraged you to use these types of items, to use the categories, to use the terminology, right, is so that I can filter my notes and I can look back on who I have entered in notes for. So let's look at those categories that we talked about. Let's go down, and I want to look for the entire month. I want to look from today to the first of the month, and I want to look for any notes that we have added in regarding regulation best interest, the CRS form sent. I don't think we have anyone signed, so I don't think we have to worry about that, but I can apply my filters here. Boom, look, there it is. There is my history. That is what I'm talking about. That is the benefit of utilizing this type of information and staying consistent, because then all I have to do is go into a filter and I can go in and actually find when I did those things. Now, let's say maybe I'm bad at categorizing. Okay. I've talked with a lot of offices that haven't been categorizing their notes properly. Everything is listed under general information, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to actually report. But again, it's not impossible, especially if you're adding in the phrase CRS or recommendation or something into that note text, because I can actually search for specific note words or phrases inside of my notes. So if I'm using CRS, I can apply those filters again, and it pulls up all of the notes that have the word CRS in the actual text of the note. CRS form sent, CRS form sent. We even have it in that one template that we utilize, form CRS delivered, okay? So if you're using the terminology, if you are entering info consistently into your notes, into your completed activities, then they are going to show up here and you are going to be able to say, oh, did Tim sign his form CRS? Okay, well, we can look and see if that has been signed. Now, that's all stuff that's already existed. We are slowly starting to roll out more and more helpful tools in regards to recording this. And it starts with a couple of the form CRS fields that we have entered in. We actually rolled these out as of the live webinar, as I am sitting here live. If you're watching this in the future, then this isn't going to exactly be on schedule here, but last week. So what was it, June? I'm gonna say like 9th or 10th, okay, is when we rolled out new form CRS fields for you to utilize in regards to recording the dates that things are sent and signed. Again, all to just let you track these items. That's, again, the big point of power for your CRM, is to help you track these items. So let's pull up a contact. Let's go back to Tim Taylor here. Now, the form CRS fields are account specific. So we would have to go specifically. Right now, there aren't form CRS fields for the entire client. Right now, they are account specific. And that's, I mean, again, you'll have to review the rules with the SEC and how those check out. But if we go in, I wonder if this one has one. I don't know if this one has one yet. Okay, it doesn't yet. Cool. So let me backtrack. I went a little bit too fast there. So I am in Tim's accounts. I can get to Tim's accounts from a number of different places, either by clicking his portfolio balance over on the right-hand side here, or clicking on accounts. Now remember, accounts get into Redtail a number of different ways, either through an integration feed with an aggregator or a custodian, or by manually entering them in. You can fill out accounts and you can have accounts inside of Redtail. And again, we don't have a deep amount of account performance reporting, but information is one of the more important parts of having these accounts in here. Being able to look at what we have, being able to record best interest dates, all those types of things, CRS dates sent and signed, as well as BICE dates as well. So those are all in there. So let's fill out all of them. So let's say we just sent Tim Taylor, let's just say we did it today. We don't have a sign date, unless let's pretend. Let's say we're using some of our technology at our disposal. Maybe we're using a form filling integration, such as Precise FP or Red Capture. Maybe we're using mail merge. We could draft up a form in mail merge and send it out. However you send out your form, okay? Let's just pretend, let's all say Tim got it and Tim signed it, okay? So we'll add those best interest dates in there, all right? And we'll do, we have the BICE dates as well. So we could go in and put in those. Let's say these are a little bit earlier. Let's pretend, let's do a little bit of time travel here. And let's say he signed those. We'll fill those out. Boom, there we go. Add those dates. It lets us know when our next due is. So we have our dates filled out here. Cool, great, so what? Again, a big powerful part of this is underneath our fiduciary reports. Again, I went over to my left-hand side over by reports, and I clicked fiduciary reports, and I can find my client summary report. I can go into my client summary and actually see those CRS sent or signed. So I can look for open accounts. I can look for active clients. I can look specifically for whatever I want. Say I'm looking for, let's keep it at that. Let's do that. So find that there, and we get everybody in there who has this information. Tax qualified, market investor. We have Timothy Taylor here, and we see all of the pieces of information right there. It's all recorded. It's all there to just help us track, to help us look and see what that is. And that's just the start of it. I've been privy to a couple of updates that we're eventually going to roll out. They're going to help you look into this information even more. For example, going to our reports and back to our fiduciary reports, we can look specifically at a no contact report at people who we haven't reached out to based on their tax qualified types, based on their accounts, based on if they're heads of household or not. These are all designed to help you. Maybe I haven't talked to somebody with an open account who is, let's say, an active, no, it's not what I want. Let's see here. Yeah, no, that's what I want. Any notes, note categories. I want to look for everybody who does not have. This is really valuable here. I want to look for everybody who does not have one of these note categories in the last 90 days or however frequently we're doing it. Okay. And again, we can focus on account types, task qualified types. We can focus on any number of these pieces of criteria. All right. No notes, no types, no categories. This is spoiler alert, is going to be a lot. Okay. You'll see a lot of these they've never gotten a note regarding regulation best interest. So if you are using those notes, if you are using those categories, that is the way that you can help, again, record this stuff later on. It's all about what you put in and what you get out of it. That's the big goal between all of this. You have to be able to put in that history in order to be able to report on it later on. That's what a CRM is. A CRM is only as good as the information that you put into it. And if you take the time, if you invest in your processes, in setting these things up to help you record in regards to regulation best interests, it's going to pay off. It's going to be able to show you who haven't we done this for? Who have we done this for? Being able to check, meet those compliance regulations, meet those new rules a lot quicker and a lot easier than you would have been able to do without any of those things. Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.